Hello everyone, and welcome back to your favorite horror storytelling channel. I know many of you use these videos to fall asleep, so before you drift off, I'd love it if you could leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from around the world. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying the video.
No one tells you this about cities. They don't sleep, they hold their breath. Every night, at exactly midnight, the city pauses, not long enough for clocks to notice, but long enough for something else to wake up. I learned that too late. At 12 a.m., my phone vibrated even though I hadn't set an alarm. The screen lit my dark apartment in a pale blue glow. No notification, no missed call, just the time, 12 a.m. Outside, the usual noise was gone. No traffic, no distant sirens, no arguing neighbors. Even the wind had stopped. That's when I heard it. A sound so subtle I almost missed it. The city inhaling. Cities are never quiet. Even at their calmest, there's always something. Tires hissing on wet pavement, a siren crying somewhere far away, the electric hum of millions of lives stacked on top of each other. So when the noise died, I knew something was wrong. I was standing at my apartment window, staring down 11 floors at an intersection that should have been busy even at this hour. Instead, it looked staged, frozen, like a photograph taken just before disaster. The traffic lights were still changing, green, yellow, red, but no cars obeyed them, because there were no cars. No people either. I checked my phone again, still midnight. That's when the street lights flickered, not all at once, one by one, like something walking through them. I waited for the sound to come back. It didn't. The silence pressed against my ear so hard it almost hurt. Not the peaceful kind, the kind that feels wrong, like your body knows something is missing before your brain does. I opened my window. Cold air slid in, sharp and metallic, carrying the smell of rain and old concrete. Still no sound, no engines, no voices, no distant music leaking from someone's apartment. The city hadn't gone quiet. It had been muted. I leaned out farther, scanning the street below. A newspaper lay half unfurled in the intersection, frozen mid-slide, as if the wind had simply let go. Then I saw movement. At the far end of the block, beneath a flickering streetlight, someone stood perfectly still. A man. I squinted, heart picking up speed. He wasn't looking around, wasn't on his phone, wasn't walking. He was staring straight ahead, at nothing. I watched him for nearly a minute. He didn't blink, didn't shift his weight, didn't breathe. When the streetlight above him went out, he vanished with it. Not walked away, vanished. I didn't sleep, not because I was scared, though I was, but because something in me knew sleep wasn't safe anymore.
Midnight had changed something, and I had the overwhelming sense that whatever had started wasn't finished with me yet. At 12:17 a.m., my phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't empty. Unknown contact. If you're awake, don't look outside again. My fingers trembled as I typed. Me. Who is this? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Unknown contact. Someone who looked. Someone who survived. A chill crawled up my spine. Me. Survived what? The reply came instantly. Midnight. I stared at the word, feeling stupid and terrified at the same time.
Then another message arrived. There are rules. No one tells you them because no one believes them until it's too late. Rule 1. If the city goes quiet, stay where you are. Rule 2. Do not follow anything that knows your name. Rule 3. If you hear breathing that isn't yours, don't breathe back. My chest tightened because I had been hearing something for the last 30 seconds, a slow, deep inhale, coming from the hallway outside my apartment door. The breathing stopped. I stood in my kitchen, all lights on, holding a knife I didn't remember picking up. My front door loomed 10 feet away, its surface perfectly still. Then came the knock. Not loud, not urgent. 3 gentle taps. Tap, tap, tap. Maintenance, a voice said softly. Too softly. No radio crackle, no footsteps, just the voice. I didn't answer. Sir, it continued, calm and patient, we need to check your unit. I backed away until my spine hit the counter. I didn't call maintenance, I said, my voice barely working. A pause. Then the voice changed. Not deeper, not louder, closer. You looked outside, it said. That means you can hear us now. The doorknob twitched. I remembered Rule 2. Do not follow anything that knows your name. Open the door, David. I dropped the knife. The lights flickered violently, plunging the apartment into darkness. And in that darkness, something exhaled, right behind me. I ran. I don't remember deciding to. I just moved. I burst into the bathroom and slammed the door, locking it with shaking hands. The mirror above the sink reflected my face, pale and soaked in sweat. Behind me, the apartment was silent again. Too silent. My phone buzzed once more. Unknown contact. You broke another rule. Me. It was inside. The reply took longer this time. Then it knows you. That means the city has started learning your shape. My reflection blinked. I hadn't. Slowly, impossibly, my reflection smiled. Not wide, not malicious. Curious, like it was seeing me for the first time. From somewhere deep in the building, a sound rolled upward through the walls, through pipes, wires, concrete. A city-sized breath. And for the first time since midnight, I understood the truth. The city wasn't empty. It was watching, and it had decided not to let me go.
The bathroom felt smaller. Every breath I tried not to take. I kept my mouth shut, inhaling through my nose in shallow pulls, afraid of whatever had exhaled behind me. My reflection, still smiling, held my eyes like it could pin me to the tile. I turned away from the mirror. The apartment was dark. Not lights are off dark. This was thicker, like the air itself had been dyed black. The glow from my phone was the only thing that proved the world still existed. I texted with my back against the door. Me. What do I do? Unknown contact. Stay inside until it leaves. If you leave your unit, do not go to the elevator. If the hallway is longer than it should be, turn around immediately. My throat tightened. I didn't like that those sentences sounded practiced, like someone who'd given the same warnings too many times. A soft scrape drifted from the other side of the bathroom door. Not footsteps, something dragging itself across the carpet. Then, quietly, politely, 3 taps against the door. Tap, tap, tap. David?
came the voice again, now right outside. "You don't have to be afraid. We're only here to fix what broke." My fingers hovered over the lock. My body leaned forward against my will like the voice had hooked a wire behind my ribs. I squeezed my eyes shut and forced myself to remember Rule 1. If the city goes quiet, stay where you are. I stayed. The taps stopped. The scraping retreated down the apartment, away from the bathroom, toward the living room, toward my front door. Then my deadbolt clicked. From the outside, unlocked. My blood turned to ice. I hadn't touched it. The front door swung open with a slow, deliberate creak, and the apartment filled with an enormous, empty silence, as if the hallway beyond had swallowed sound whole. I didn't mean to, but I stepped out of the bathroom. The darkness thinned near the open doorway, not because of light, because of absence. The air there felt hollow, like staring at a hole in the world. I walked to my entryway with my heart beating in my ears, each step too loud in the quiet. The hallway outside should have been lit by dull yellow bulbs, stained carpet, apartment doors every few feet. Instead, it was dark, and it was long, too long. The corridor stretched away like a tunnel carved through night, vanishing into a distance that couldn't fit inside my building. No doors, no numbers, no carpet, just a smooth floor that reflected nothing, and walls that seemed to breathe in slow, subtle pulses. I remembered the message. If the hallway is longer than it should be, turn around immediately. I turned. My apartment door was gone. There was only wall, seamless, unbroken, like my unit had never existed. And behind me, deep down the endless corridor, something whispered my name with the fondness of a lover. David. Panic is a liquid thing. It floods you, fills your chest, rises into your throat until you can't tell if you're suffocating from fear or from the air being stolen away. I pressed my palms against the wall where my door should have been. Cold, solid, real. I stumbled backward, spinning, searching for any sign of normal, any apartment numbers, any fire exit sign, any cheap hallway art.
Nothing. The corridor felt like it was waiting. Then the overhead lights blinked on one by one, not from my end outward, but from the far darkness towards me, like something was walking through the switches. As the light approached, I saw shapes along the walls. Not doors, not exactly, more like impressions. Rectangles pressed into the wall where doors should have been, as if the building remembered them but didn't want to commit. The nearest rectangle had a peephole, just a peephole floating in smooth paint. I leaned in, against every instinct, and looked through. At first, I saw my own living room, the couch, the coffee table, the TV. Then the image shifted. The living room looked older, dustier. The furniture was wrong, styles from decades ago. A rotary phone sat on the table. Something moved in the corner. A man stepped into view. He wore an old security uniform and held a flashlight that didn't cast light. His face was pale, eyes sunken like he'd been awake for weeks. He looked straight at the peephole and smiled. Not my reflection smile. This one had teeth that looked too even, too perfect, too many. He raised a hand softly,
as if greeting me through glass. Then his eyes changed. They didn't go black or glow or anything dramatic. They simply focused, like a camera finding a face, like a system identifying a target. I jerked back from the peephole, heart hammering, and the peephole winked, a soft, wet blink. I ran. The corridor didn't respond like a normal hallway. My footsteps made no sound. The walls rippled slightly as I moved, like I was running past the ribs of some enormous sleeping creature. I passed another rectangle, then another. Peepholes everywhere, and as I ran, I felt eyes follow me, countless unseen lenses turning in unison. Ahead, in the distance, a figure stood beneath a light. A man. Normal height. Normal posture. I slowed, dread pooling in my stomach. He lifted his head slightly. His face was almost ordinary. Almost. But his eyes, they were wrong. Not monstrous, not deformed, just wrong. They didn't reflect the overhead light. They didn't move with micro-expressions. They didn't do the small human things eyes do. They were like glass marbles someone had painted to resemble a person's gaze. He opened his mouth. "David," he said, softly, with my own voice. I backed away. The man stepped forward, and the corridor behind him opened like the world had unzipped. A doorway appeared where there hadn't been one, black inside, endless. "Come back," he whispered, smiling too gently. "The city misses you." I turned and sprinted the other direction. The corridor seemed to stretch with me, as if it enjoyed the chase. The rectangles blurred past. The peepholes watched. Then, mercifully, something familiar appeared. A red exit sign. It glowed like a promise. I threw myself toward it, fingers reaching for the metal bar of a door that finally looked like a door. Cold steel met my palm. I slammed it open and stumbled into a stairwell. Concrete, painted cinder block, metal steps, a smell of bleach and rust. Normal. So normal I almost cried. I pulled the door shut behind me and jammed my shoulder against it, breathing hard despite Rule 3, because my lungs didn't care about rules anymore. My phone buzzed again. Unknown contact. Good. Stairwell. Do not look down for long. Me. Who are you? This time the reply came as a name. Renee. And then, I'm on 14B, or I was, before the city learned me. I stared at the message, then at the stairs. My apartment was on 11. If I went down, I could reach the lobby, the street, other people. But the silence outside said there were no other people. I started down anyway. 1 flight. 2. The air grew colder. On the 3rd landing, I paused. The stairwell lights flickered once, and in that flicker, I saw something written on the wall in black marker. Not a building, a throat. My stomach twisted. I kept moving. By the 5th landing, the steps no longer matched the layout of my building. The stairwell felt steeper, tighter. The landings were longer. The concrete walls seemed slightly damp now, like they were sweating. I gripped the rail and leaned forward, looking down, and regretted it instantly. The stairwell didn't go down 5 flights. It went down forever. a spiraling shaft of steps disappearing into darkness so deep it looked like it was absorbing the red glow of the exit sign. And from far below, from impossible distance, came the faint sound of something climbing upward. Not footsteps, a rhythmic scrape, like nails on metal. Slow, patient, coming for me. I tore my eyes away and bolted downward, not thinking, not breathing, just moving because stopping felt like dying. At the next landing, the door wasn't labeled lobby. It was labeled basement, authorization required. The scrape below grew louder. I shoved the door open and crashed into a subway platform. The platform lights buzzed weakly overhead. The air smelled like wet stone and old electricity. This couldn't be real. My building didn't connect to the subway. It didn't have a basement like this. I turned back. The door behind me was no longer a stairwell door. It was a tiled archway, like something from an older era, a sign above it that read, "Midnight Line." My skin prickled. Across the tracks sat a train, motionless. Its doors were open. No conductor, no passengers. But there was a glow inside, warm and dim, like candlelight in a tunnel. My phone buzzed again. "Renee, if you see the Midnight Line, don't get on. It takes you where the city keeps the missing." I stared at the train. The silence on the platform was so thick it felt like pressure. Then faintly, I heard it. The same inhale I'd heard through my window. The city breathing. This time it was closer, like the breath was coming from the tunnel itself. A voice drifted from inside the train, soft, coaxing. David. It wasn't the hallway voice. It wasn't my voice. It was my mother's. My throat closed. She'd been dead for 6 years. "No," I whispered. The voice continued, gentle and warm, the way she used to wake me from nightmares as a kid. "It's cold out there, sweetheart. Come inside. You can rest."
The train lights brightened slightly. The open door looked like the only welcoming place in the entire world. I took one step forward before I realized what I was doing. I stopped. Behind me, at the far end of the platform, a figure stood where the stairs should have been. A man in an old security uniform, holding a flashlight that didn't cast light. He began walking toward me with slow, unhurried steps, and I understood with sudden clarity. The train wasn't a trap, it was bait. I backed away from the train door. My mother's voice dropped, becoming something flatter. "You're making this difficult." The security man's smile widened. Then the platform speaker crackled to life, and a cheerful recorded voice announced, "Now arriving, your stop. Please mind the gap." The ground under my feet shuddered, and the tunnel exhaled. I ran along the platform, away from the open train door, away from my mother's impossible voice, away from the smiling security man. There was nowhere to go. The platform ended in a wall of tile and graffiti. The air grew colder with each step, and the buzzing lights overhead flickered as if the city itself was blinking slowly. My phone buzzed non-stop, like it was panicking with me. "Renee, David, listen to me. You can't outrun it. You have to make it lose interest." "Me? How?" "Renee, it learns patterns. It learns fear. It learns your habits. If you do what you always do, it finds you faster." The security man was closer now, footsteps still silent,
smile still calm. My mother's voice drifted from the train, now less like comfort and more like hunger wearing a familiar mask. I pressed myself against the tiled wall, searching for anything, any door, any vent, any maintenance hatch. My fingers found a metal panel half hidden behind a torn poster. I yanked at it. It opened. A narrow service tunnel yawned behind it, black and tight, like a vein running through the city. Renee, if you go into a service tunnel, don't use your phone light. They follow light. My thumb hovered over the flashlight icon. I stopped. The tunnel was pitch black. I couldn't see an inch inside it, but I could hear something within. A faint whispering. Not words, just the texture of voices, like a crowd murmuring behind a wall. The security man stopped 5 feet away, tilted his head. "David," he said, almost kindly, "you don't belong in the tunnels. That's where the city digests." My stomach lurched. Then Renee sent one more message. "David, if you trust me at all, close your eyes and crawl. Do not look back." The security man took one step closer. The train door behind me creaked as if something inside was shifting its weight, preparing to step out. I closed my eyes, and I crawled into the city's dark vein, feeling cold metal scrape my palms, feeling the whispering brush against my ears like fingertips. Behind me, the platform speaker chirped brightly one last time, "Thank you for riding the midnight line." And the panel slammed shut.
The tunnel was tighter than it looked. Metal pressed in on both sides, cool and damp, like the inside of something that had never seen light. I crawled on my hands and knees, eyes shut hard, my temples ached. The whispering surrounded me, not louder, closer. It wasn't coming from ahead or behind. It was everywhere at once, layered voices overlapping without words, like conversations being remembered rather than spoken. I focused on my breathing, slow, quiet, careful not to answer whatever was breathing back. My phone vibrated in my hand. I didn't look. I felt the vibration change, longer pulses, like Morse code tapping against my palm. I almost dropped it. Then I realized something worse. The tunnel floor was gently sloping upward, but I hadn't been crawling long enough to reach the surface. I opened my eyes by accident. The darkness didn't move. No depth, no edges, no hint of where the tunnel ended. It was like staring into something that didn't exist yet. The whispering stopped. The sudden silence was so complete it made my ears ring. Then the tunnel spoke, not out loud, inside my head. "David," it thought. I froze. "You are loud," the tunnel continued, curious rather than angry. "You echo." My stomach turned. "I'm not," I whispered, then stopped myself. The metal beneath my hands pulsed once. "You learned my rules too late," it said. "But you are interesting." The tunnel tightened slightly, the walls inching inward, not crushing, testing. "You move when hunted. You stop when watched. You remember when called." A pause. "You would make a good street." I screamed. The sound vanished instantly, swallowed before it could exist. The tunnel released me. Light bloomed ahead, dim, yellow, artificial. I crawled faster, bursting out of the darkness and onto cold concrete. I gasped, sucking in air like I'd been underwater. Behind me, the tunnel sealed itself shut without a seam, like it had never been there.
I was outside. Streetlights hummed overhead. Parked cars lined the curb. A row of brick townhouses stretched into the distance. Normal. Too normal. I stood, shaking, brushing grime from my hands. My phone buzzed again. Renee, you're still you. That's good. Me, where am I? 3 dots appeared, then stopped, then appeared again. Somewhere the city practices. I looked around more carefully. The sign read Willow Ave. I walked 10 steps. Another sign, Willow Ave. 10 more steps. Same sign. The houses were identical. Same cracked steps. Same porch light flickering. Same abandoned bicycle tipped against a fence.
I turned around. The street behind me looked exactly the same. A loop. I swallowed. A woman stood on one of the porches now, middle-aged, bathrobe, slippers. She waved cheerfully. "Evening," she called. "Cold one tonight, huh?" Her voice was normal. Too normal. I approached slowly. "Do you know where we are?" I asked. She smiled wider, didn't blink. "Willow Avenue," she said. "Yes, but I've lived here 15 years," she interrupted smoothly. "Best neighborhood in the city." I glanced past her into the house. Through the open door, I saw the same living room repeated again and again, like mirrors facing each other. Couch after couch after couch, vanishing into infinity. I stepped back. The woman's smile twitched. "Are you lost?" she asked. Behind her, every porch light on the street flicked on at once. Doors opened. People stepped out. Men, women, children, all smiling, all looking at me, all speaking in perfect unison. "You shouldn't wander at midnight." I ran. The neighborhood responded by stretching. The houses elongated. The street curved impossibly. Willow Avenue became Willow Circle, then Willow Loop, then something without a name. I ducked between 2 houses and found myself in an alley. Trash bins, fire escapes, graffiti. Relief hit me so hard my knees buckled. A man sat on a crate near a flickering barrel fire. He wore a heavy coat and stared into the flames. "Don't stop," he said quietly, without looking up. I hesitated. "You real?" I asked. He snorted. "Depends what you mean." I stepped closer. His eyes met mine, tired, bloodshot, painfully human. "I'm Marcus," he said. "Or I was, before the city misplaced me." My chest tightened. "You know what's happening?" He nodded slowly. "City runs on routines, patterns, movement." He poked the fire with a stick. "Midnight's when it audits." I frowned. "Audits?" "Makes sure everything's where it should be." He looked at me. "And fixes what isn't." A scream echoed down the alley. Marcus didn't flinch. "They're not people anymore," he said softly. "Not really, just behaviors wearing faces." Another scream closer. Marcus stood. "You got followed?" "I don't think so." He smiled sadly. "That's what everyone says." Something stepped into the mouth of the alley, not running, walking. Its shape shifted slightly with every step, like it couldn't decide which person to be. Marcus shoved me toward a rusted door. "Go," he hissed, "and whatever you hear, don't answer." I opened my mouth to thank him.
He was already gone. The barrel fire went out. The alley filled with silence, and the thing stepped forward, wearing my face this time. I burst through the rusted door into another stairwell. My lungs burned, my head spun. The stairwell numbers made no sense. 3.5, 11A, -2. I ran anyway. The thing followed, not fast, confident. It didn't need to rush. As I climbed, I heard it talking, not to me, but to itself, learning. Heart rate elevated, it said in my voice. Flight response consistent. I screamed. It laughed, a perfect imitation of how I laughed when something genuinely amused me. "You feel loud inside," it continued. "That's inefficient." The stairwell walls rippled. The numbers peeled off and slid down the steps like leaves. My phone buzzed again. "Renee, it's wearing you now. That means you're almost mapped." "Me, what happens when it finishes?" The reply came after a long pause. "You stop being missing." The stairwell ended abruptly at a rooftop door. I burst out into open air. The city skyline sprawled beneath a starless sky. Buildings rose and fell like teeth. Wind howled. I turned. The door behind me was gone. The thing stood 10 feet away, my face smoothing into place. "You don't fit yet," it said, thoughtfully, "but you will." It stepped closer, and the city leaned in. The rooftop trembled, not from wind, from a tension. I felt it like pressure behind my eyes, like something massive was focusing. The city wasn't around me anymore. It was above me. The clouds parted, not naturally, deliberately. The sky opened into a vast, dark architecture of lights and lines, like circuitry woven into night itself. I understood then. The city wasn't buildings. It was systems, movement, surveillance, flow. And midnight was when it updated itself. The thing wearing my face stopped walking. It looked up. For the first time, it seemed uncertain. Renee's message came through, crackling like weak signal. "David, the city doesn't hate you. It just doesn't know where to put you." The wind roared. The skyline warped. The thing turned to me, my own eyes pleading now. "Help me fit," it said. Behind it, the sky pulsed, waiting. I stood at the edge of the building, looking down at streets that twisted like veins, trains that moved without passengers, lights that blinked like thoughts, and I realized something horrifying. If I jumped, the city wouldn't stop me. If I stayed, it would finish me. Either way, midnight was almost over.
The wind pushed at my back like a hand, not hard, encouraging. The city below pulsed, lights flickering in patterns that felt intentional, like a language I almost understood. Traffic flowed where there were no drivers. Trains moved without passengers. Elevators rose and fell inside buildings that no longer had people inside them. The thing wearing my face stepped closer to the edge beside me. "It's easier if you let go," it said gently. "Falling is a kind of agreement." My phone buzzed. "Renee, don't listen to it. It only knows endings." "Me, you said you were in 14B. A long pause. The thing beside me tilted its head, listening. 3 dots appeared, stopped, appeared again. "I was," Renee finally replied, "until midnight learned me." My stomach dropped. "Me? What does that mean?" The wind howled louder, carrying distant echoes, sirens that never resolved, voices that never finished sentences. "It means I'm still talking to you," she wrote, "but I don't live anywhere anymore." I turned away from the edge. The rooftop door reappeared behind me without a sound. The thing frowned, my frown perfected. "That door wasn't there before," it said. I ran for it. The door slammed shut behind me and locked itself. I found myself in an elevator, not moving, no buttons, no numbers, mirrors on every wall, too many reflections. They didn't all move when I did. Some lagged, some smiled when I didn't. My phone buzzed again. "Renee, elevators are liminal. The city uses them to decide. Me? Decide what? The elevator shuddered, then dropped. Not falling, smoothly descending. The reflections began to change. One showed me older. One showed me thinner. One showed me with eyes like glass marbles. One showed me standing still while the city grew around me, streets wrapping my body like roots. The doors opened. I stepped out onto a floor that didn't exist. The sign on the wall read, "Processing." The hallway ahead was vast and white, stretching farther than my eyes could follow. Lines ran along the floor and walls, pulsing faintly like veins under skin. Figures stood along the sides. People, not moving, not breathing, just waiting. I walked past them, afraid to look too closely. One turned its head anyway. It was Marcus, or something wearing him. "It's quieter here," he said peacefully. "You stop hurting after a while." I kept walking. At the end of the hall was a room with no door, just an opening. And beyond it, the city's heart. The core wasn't mechanical. It wasn't organic either. It was a space, an impossible cathedral-like void filled with flowing light and shadow, data and memory braided together. Buildings folded into it, streets fed into glowing arteries. The city wasn't alive. It was dreaming. And I was standing inside its dream. A presence pressed against my thoughts. Not words, understanding. "You are unindexed," the city thought. My knees buckled. "I belong here," I said, though I didn't know why. "I live here." "You occupy space," it replied. "You disrupt flow." Images flooded my mind. Me stopping at crosswalks, waiting too long, changing routes, hesitating. Small human inconsistencies, errors. "You are inefficient." Renee's voice cut through the pressure, not from my phone now, but from everywhere. "David," she said softly, "this is where it decides what stays." I whispered, "Where are you?" "I'm distributed," she said. "I didn't survive, I adapted." The city pulsed. "You may choose," it thought. The light split into two paths. One showed me fading, becoming routine, safe, forgettable. A man who rode the same train, walked the same street, never disrupted anything again. The other showed me gone, missing, not erased, stored. A whisper, a warning, a glitch. Renee appeared beside me, not fully, more like an outline filled with static. "I stayed too long," she said. "I tried to map myself back." I swallowed. "Is there a way out?" She looked at the city core, then at me. "There's one rule no one tells you," she said. "What?" "You can't escape the city," she replied, "but you can haunt it." The city tightened around us, light flaring, decision required. Renee's form flickered. "If you choose to disappear," she said, "you'll still be here, between systems. You'll feel everything, but you'll be free." "And if I choose to stay?" She didn't answer. I understood anyway. Staying meant becoming part of the dream, predictable, silent. The city leaned closer, curious. Midnight was ending. The systems were locking. I took a breath, a real one, and stepped forward, into the space between the lights. Morning came. People returned. Traffic filled the streets. Sirens wailed. Coffee shops opened. Elevators dinged. The city exhaled. Somewhere between floors, between signals, between midnight and morning, I remained.
I am not a ghost. I am not alive. I am the reason your phone glitches at 12 a.m., the reason a streetlight flickers when no one is there, the reason you feel watched when the city goes quiet. Renee is here too, scattered, listening. We don't hurt people, we warn them. If your city ever stops breathing at midnight, stay where you are, don't follow your name. And if you hear breathing that isn't yours, don't breathe back, because the city is dreaming, and sometimes it dreams of you.